Keeneland, every moment matters.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room presented by Keeneland. My name is Bill Finley, and I am a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News. This, by the way, is my beloved dog, Penny, who you've seen on camera before.
How are y'all doing? I am Randy Moss with NBC Sports. I don't have a dog on my shirt. The dog is behind me.
There she goes.
There she is. There's Lucy.
Zoe Cadman here with First Racing and First TV. It's dark outside. I'm in England, and it's obviously 5 o'clock somewhere. So I'm going to drink this while we chat through our podcast, if you don't mind, gentlemen.
Yeah, with Zoe, we don't mind one bit. I think you're better when you've had a couple drinks. Not that you're not good to begin with, but you're a lot of fun. So we like that about you. Anyways, so guys, I wrote a story today. We're recording this on Monday. I wrote a story in today's TDN, which kind of resonated with me. I'll give you the basic details. A really remarkable story. The Stewart family, especially John Stewart's daughter, Sarah Stewart, rescued 3 horses out of a kill pen in Louisiana. If they hadn't have done it, the horses would have been sent to slaughter. They were only yearlings that were bought only a few days earlier at a sale in Louisiana. Normally when this happens, I've never heard of any of these horses not only racing, but going on to win. One of the horses was by the name of Awesome Hawaiian. And believe it or not, they gave him every chance in the world. They treated him like a superstar. They said he got the best care. They went to WinStar to break the horse. Lo and behold, he broke his maiden for $30,000 last week at Churchill Downs. Now, I know that doesn't make him necessarily a Grade 1 stakes winner, but that's an incredible accomplishment. And now he's claimed by Joe Sharp. Will head down to Louisiana. I wouldn't be surprised if he, at the very least, is an allowance winner on the Louisiana circuit. But another part of the story that troubled me a little bit, I do think that the horse racing industry has done a remarkable job to make this problem dissipate. But it's time for the problem to disappear. And the reason why I bring this up is the story did point out that there are still plenty of horses going to slaughter. A matter of fact, the person who bought the horse from the yearling sale, the 3 horses, matter of fact, the Stewarts bought 3 horses. 2 others are not suitable for racing. They'll go on to other careers. But what happened to the other 8 horses? Were they sent on to Mexico on slaughter? The answer is this is viable. This is something that the racing industry can and should accomplish. I don't want to see another horse ever go to slaughter. And you know what the answer is, Zoe Cadman? It's money. Put up the money and end this problem. I've kind of had it.
Yeah, we need the SAFE Act to pass. That will quite simply stop it. You cannot export horses out of the USA for slaughter. Not to Mexico, not to Canada, not to anywhere. It's been put in place. We've had someone on this podcast before to talk about it. It simply needs to pass. Now, where these 3 horses came from that the Stewarts bought, the horses they named were Ed, and Eddie. So 3 of them, the 3 Eddies, were purchased from not quite a kill lot, but there are a lot of people taking advantage of good-hearted people that they'll purchase these horses and hold them for ransom per se and say, we will send these horses to slaughter if you don't put up the money. Now, whether they do or they don't, I don't know, but there are a lot of people taking advantage of people on Facebook and holding these horses to ransom, so to speak, for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. And it's a tricky situation because do you trust they're going to send this horse to slaughter? It's not in slaughter right now. Or do you, I don't know. There's a lot of it going on, and it's something that a lot of the thoroughbred rescues are trying to put an end to. As far as the horse slaughter thing, that has to be put to an end with the SAFE Act once and for all.
Yeah. And it's a daunting problem. It's a moral issue, obviously, in thoroughbred racing, but just a numbers and money problem, as Bill pointed out. I mean, you go back to 2017, and between 2017 and 2025, there have been approximately 175,000 thoroughbreds bred in North America. I mean, that's a lot of horses, and that's just in the last, 8 years. There are a lot of horses that need future care, that need to be repurposed, rehomed, taken care of, fed, veterinary care and everything. It's an expensive proposition. It's a logistical issue as well. And I think the sport has done yeoman's work in improving that situation. 20 years ago, it was horrific. And it's something that I think everybody in the sport can get behind. And 3 cheers to the stewards. Yes. I mean, Jon Stewart has taken a lot of guff since he came into the industry as someone, who might have been a little cocky when he first came in with guns blazing, made some comments that might have rubbed some people the wrong way. But in my opinion, he has really been a big net positive for the thoroughbred industry since his appearance a few years ago. And this is just one example, I mean, they didn't have to do this. It's a lot of trouble. And apparently it's a great story, Bill. And apparently they were just made aware of these horses at the last possible moment, almost like the day before they were scheduled to be shipped to Mexico to slaughter. And they jumped in right away and had the resources to do it and got it done. And I really love the part, Bill, that you referenced it, about how Stewart's daughter insisted that these horses bought for $1,000 a piece would get exactly the same treatment, exactly the same perks, the same chances as the $1 million horses that Stewart may have bought as yearlings or bred. That's a great story.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to get back to a point that you brought up and have you touch upon it a little bit further. To me, this is a heartwarming story from the angle of Awesome Hawaiian. And then there's the other part that we've been talking about. But this concept of bail is very controversial in the industry. Some people don't like it. I think the stewards in some corners will be criticized by this because they believe that paying the bail. So here's how it would work. A guy might buy a horse at one of these sales for $800 or something like that. He puts it on Facebook that I'll give you 1 week. And if nobody comes up with $1,500, I'm selling this horse to slaughter. And, that's a few $100s, but, these are people that I don't know how any human being could do that, but that's, another story for another day. But a lot of people think that people shouldn't pay the bail money because it encourages these buyers to buy these horses. And otherwise, there might be another avenue to take care of this. It sounds like you're a little conflicted about this as well.
It's a very, very thin line to cross, to be honest, because there are a lot of decent rescues that will pull horses out of bad situations and need money and need funding to save these horses. And then you get some assholes that buy these horses for $8, $7, $6, $1,000 and put horrible pictures up. Might not even be the same horse. This horse is in dire need. It's going to die tomorrow if you don't send $1,500. And you're just pulling on people's heartstrings. You don't know what's real and what's not. That's the very unfortunate thing about everything that's going on. And at the end of the day, the only thing to stop all of it is to pull the SAFE Act in and get it done, because that will eliminate all of it. It will eliminate the posts to Mexico, to Canada, because they can't go. There's no way they can go. So, yeah, it's a very tough situation. And I know plenty of people that have donated. And plenty of organizations that are mad because people donated. But it's hard for the general person, Joe Blow, and the general public to be able to differentiate between what's a just cause and what's not.
And the steward said to me that matter of fact, it was interesting. They said Resolute Racing has never once before run a horse in a claiming race. This is the first time. But they obviously, were realistic and wanted to put the horse in a spot where it went off at 3 to 5 as well, which is pretty fascinating because Jon Stewart told the whole world to bet on the horse. So they made the horse 3 to 5. Was claimed by Joe Sharp, as I think I might have mentioned earlier. Randy, I'll be fascinated to see. And first of all, I'm going to root for this horse from now to the end of the year. How could you not? But I'm going to be fascinated to see what happens to him next. I'm not saying he's going to go on and be a graded stakes winner or anything like that. But as Sharp said to me, this horse is okay. And he thinks he can win allowance races, state bred allowance races at the fairgrounds. And imagine, again, another one of the quotes, this is a horse nobody wanted for $1,000. I bet you couldn't buy him for $100,000 right now.
Yeah. And Sharp in your stories, it knew nothing about the background of the horse. All he knew was he watched workout videos online, and the horse looked like he was training exceptionally well. He was a Louisiana bred, and Sharp goes to New Orleans for the winter. So he thought, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to get a horse, and knew nothing about the fact that the horse was rescued from essentially, certain death for just $1,000. And now apparently he's bought into the story, and he thinks it's a huge, big deal as well. Just look at how far the sport has come in this. It's got a ways to go. Yes, Safe Act would be great. But 40 years ago, right? I'm a kid, and a very small thoroughbred sale in the South hired me to do publicity. I was writing news releases and sending them to the newspaper and stuff. So I'm noticing one buyer was buying dozens of horses for $600, $700, $800. That's the most money that this individual was spending. And his name or her name wasn't on the sales. It was just some sort of nondescript, stable name or whatever. So I start poking around and asking questions and trying to find out who this person was. I was going to put it in the story. I had the leading buyer at the sale by numbers, and the owner of the sale went absolutely berserk when he found out that I was digging on the no. You do not want to publicize this. You do not want to know who this person is. Stay away from this completely. Focus on the horses selling at the top end. And that's why. I mean, this is 40 years ago. You know what was happening to those horses.
Yeah.
And that's how far we've come as a sport right now, that this is now front and center. And it's a good thing.
And honestly, well done to the Stewarts. And they say he'll always have a home. The other two, Ed and Eddie, are still on the farm because obviously they never made it to the races. So they'll have a home for life. And well done to them. It's good to say good things about people. It really is.
Yeah. And I totally agree with Randy that, even though I was, made some critical comments, the industry has done a tremendous job on this, but let's take the next steps now and let's do what we can to just really wipe out this problem altogether, which I don't think is impossible. But anyways, and again, I also mirror what you say. The Stewart family deserves a lot of credit. And I hope that other owners, step in and follow their lead. And that would certainly help with the situation. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, Dale Roman's a candidate for the United States Senate. That trainer, boy, what an interesting story that is. He'll be our Gainesway guest of the week. Stay with us.
Do want to remind you that the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but these are the cliff notes. The Keeneland November sale concluded with record sales of nearly $246 million, the highest total since 2007. Records were set in average and median, and 18 horses sold for $1 million or more, the most since 2017. And for the first time since 2022, we saw a $1 million horse in Book 2. The day after the November sale concluded, Bishop's Bay topped the horses of racing age sale at $1.3 million, a record price for the sale. We'll talk more about this a little later on, but we'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
We do this so your granddaughter can work on a farm someday. So the stands will still be packed in 50 years. That's why we come to work every day, obsess over every single detail. Because the story of racing is written one moment at a time. And the future of our industry deserves nothing less. Keeneland, every moment matters.
As always, our fastest horse of the week brought to you by the Fast Sires at WinStar Farm as we head now into the last month and a half of 2025. Constitution is doing it again. He's currently a top 5 sire by earnings after also finishing in the top 5 in 2024. And this year, Constitution also ranks among the top 5 in winners and in the top 5 in black type horses. It's no surprise then that the market is responding. Constitution has had 7-figure yearlings at Keeneland September now for 4 consecutive years. His top earner this year was Mindframe, who has been retired. Mindframe now will join 'Tis the Law and another WinStar Stallion, Independence Hall, as Sons of Constitution, standing at stud in Kentucky. Constitution will stand at WinStar in 2026 for a fee of $110,000. We had one triple-digit buyer speed figure last week in a $10,000 claiming race at Remington Park. Remember a horse named Get Her Number? 5 years ago, he won the American Pharoah, beating future Preakness winner Rombauer. He was later fourth in the Arkansas Derby, second in the Bing Crosby, beaten ahead in the Cigar Mile, finishing ahead of Wyatt Abarrio, and then his form went badly south. And this summer at Del Mar, Get Her Number was claimed for $12,500. He's now 7 years old. So he resurfaces on Saturday at Remington with the new trainer, Robertino Diodoro. And in his first start for Diodoro, Get Her Number has a flashback. 6 furlongs, 108.78. An 8-length victory, his first win in almost exactly 3 years. And Get Her Number got a number of 103. Get Her Number, our fastest horse of the week.
Welcome to now the Gainesway Guest of the Week. It's Dale Romans. You know him as a horse trainer, but soon, if things break his way, you might know him as a United States Senator from the state of Kentucky. He announced last week that he is running in the Democratic primary to try to win the seat vacated by Mitch McConnell's retirement. But before we get to Dale's interview, let's look back and take a look at his first campaign video.
It takes 2 minutes to win a derby, but it takes a lifetime to win a community. I've been in Kentucky my entire life, and I think I know what Kentucky needs in Washington. An independent Democrat that can go to Washington, D.C. and vote for what's right for the people of Kentucky. I've been successful in my life. I grew up with nothing, worked hard to get to where I am, but working every day with the people that I work with. They'll keep me grounded. You know, this is a family affair, horse racing and working inside of a barn. I've traveled around the world, but I also saw the plight of the immigrant workforce we needed back here. The ones that are here working, doing jobs that are necessary in this country. We need those people. We don't need a fight. We need a fix. Kentucky is the greatest place in the world. It's the heart of the United States. We need to keep Kentucky great. Education was a hard thing for me. In second grade, I was diagnosed severely dyslexic. School was always hard. But along the way, I realized how important education is and how we can educate kids differently. Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And of course, my mother was a single mother, raising 3 boys by herself, but she was not going to let me fall through the cracks.
Oh, in 60 years right here.
This is where I learned the true values of hard work. That's where they're from.
Big union man. He loved FDR.
That's when the Democratic Party was for the working class.
Yes, and that's the way it should be.
I never imagined ever having a horse in the Kentucky Derby. And then all of a sudden, we got that opportunity. I know how to win as an underdog. I know how to come from behind. And there's a lot of strength in electing a Democratic senator from a red state. I wouldn't be beholden to the party, but also wouldn't be a puppet to the president like a Republican freshman senator would have to be. Kentucky is ready for an independent Democrat in 2026. I'm Dale Romans. I've won for myself my whole life. Now I'm ready to win for Kentucky.
Dale, welcome. And first of all, I want to express a little bit of just wonderment. You're a very successful trainer. You're the leading trainer in the history of Churchill Downs. You won the Travers beating American Pharoah. You won the Preakness Stakes. You trained the hottest sire in the sport today, not this time. You seem to really enjoy the job. Meanwhile, right now, Washington is a snake pit, a cesspool, whatever you want to call it. What the heck are you thinking, Dale?
Well, yeah, I'm more than a horse trainer. I'm also the president of the HBPA, our horsemen's group. I'm on the board of the Racing Authority. I've been on the arena board. I've been the vice president of our HBPA for 30 years. I've spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill. As Zoe knows, we spent a full day there together one time. And I've been behind the scenes on a lot of political issues. I've supported a lot of our Democratic candidates inside the state of Kentucky, spent a lot of time in Frankfort working on issues like the BLT situation we have and helping Kentucky grow our entire horse industry here. So politics has always been a side gig of mine. and this seat became open. And of this stage of my life, I think I could do a lot of good and help people from Kentucky by getting to Washington.
All right. You know Steve Kornacki, right?
Know him? Yes, I do.
Okay. He's an NBC guy, horse racing guy, political animal. He does a lot of polling and stuff on NBC. So when you made your announcement, of course, the texts were flying back and forth between all of us. Can you believe this? Look at Dale. This is so cool. And Kornacki thought it was cool, but he said, Dale is about to be a bigger long shot than any horse he's ever run because he's running as a Democrat in a Trump plus 32 state. Why Democrat instead of Republican if you're going to be in Kentucky, obviously?
It'd have been a phony issue. A lot of people said change your party to Republican and run as a Republican or run as an independent. That's not what I am. I'm a Democrat, but I'm a very centrist Democrat. Senator Manchin, I've been talking to him a lot about running because he came from West Virginia. And he told me I identify myself as an independent Democrat. And he said, from your state, there would become a lot of power coming from a red state and being a Democratic senator because they could never primary. You don't have to go along with the party on anything. You vote for what's right for Kentucky and what's right for this country. And it's a good place to be in. And, everybody says we're such a red state. They did vote for Trump, but we've seen in all the elections in the last couple of weeks that people don't just follow what Trump says and who to vote for. We have a Democrat governor, a very popular one. It's won a couple of terms. We just haven't had an opportunity really to have a senator. For 30 years, we had two institutions in Mitch McConnell and Jim Bunning. And then Rand Paul came in, and I don't know, we ran the strongest candidate, and he won the seat. So there really hasn't been a lot of opportunity for a Democrat to run for a senatorial seat in the state of Kentucky. I'm just going to give it all I can, see what I can do, see if we can win this primary as a centrist Democrat. We'll get into the general, and who knows what the political environment will be next November.
Well, I'm certainly rooting for you. You mentioned at the top that we both went to the Senate together. 2012, guys, probably didn't hear this story. Dale had just won the Preakness, and a buddy of his is in the Senate. He's like, hey, Zoe, do you want to come to Capitol Hill? Do you want to go see the Senate? I'm like, sure. So we go in the whole building. We go through all the red tape. And then we go into this big round room, and Dale's like, lay on the floor in here. And I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, okay. So I lay on the floor. He's like, you're actually lying in place where the dead presidents lay. It was the most amazing thing. That's
the last thing any president sees, what Zoe was staring up at.
It was a really fun day. So Dale's always loved politics, but I mean, Dale, you've had a long history with the Democratic Party. Your daughter, Bailey, did she not work on Hillary Clinton's campaign trail as well?
She worked on Hillary. She worked on Pete Buttigieg. My future son-in-law was the scheduler for Pete Buttigieg. And, she got into all that because I was so much into politics all the time. Now, she's left to me. We argue about a lot of issues. So I like to think I'm dead in the center. And that's where we need to lead from. I mean, the fringes are getting way too much news and too much stuff done. We all live in the middle. And there's, the difference between a Republican and Democrat in the center in Kentucky is so small. Hopefully people see that and they vote for the person and not the party.
Well, they say the challenges of being a conservative Democrat or a liberal Republican, let's say, is not really so much getting public support as much as getting money. Because the money seems to come from the fringes. So how are you going to overcome that?
I'll tell you what, we've spent less than a week and the money's coming in pretty well and some good endorsements are coming in. And it couldn't ask for a better rollout in the first week. So wow. It ends up being all about the money, which is crazy. I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to be a $200 million race between the two candidates, if not more, to try to win this seat in the Senate. And that's ridiculous that we have to spend that much money to get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Dale, many times you've mentioned that one of the issues that means the most to you is immigration reform. I'm sure part of that is your history as a horse trainer, where there's a lot of issues with the whole, virtually almost the entire workforce at Churchill Downs and most racetracks now are foreigners. So far, ICE has not, for the best of my knowledge, really come into any racetracks. Did a little bit of at Delta Downs or at a quarter horse meet and deported people. But tell us more about your feelings on this issue. Is it fixable, and what is the answer?
It is fixable. A third of your all's telecast here is an immigrant workforce, but it's not just horse racing. It's so many different industries around the country that need this labor force of jobs that Americans don't have to do because there's so much opportunity. We're at 4% unemployment. There's so much other opportunity. People don't need to have to pick crops. They don't have to come to the barns at 4 o'clock in the morning. They don't have to put roofs on. So we need an immigrant labor force in this country that makes sense. It's become a political talking point for Republicans. Just deport everybody. It's unrealistic. I mean, there's $25 billion been paid into the Social Security system by undocumented people that nobody wants to talk about. To me, it's an easy fix. There's a 10-year ban rule where if you've been in this country undocumented for one day, then you're banned from applying for a visa for 10 years. First thing we need is suspend that rule. I think it was a Clinton law that backfired. What it ended up doing is made everybody just stay here all the time because they knew if they ever went home, they couldn't get another visa. If we suspended that rule and a person has an employer that will sponsor them, that they can pass a background check, that they're not taking an American's job, we make a work permit. We don't need a path to citizenship. We need a path to work permit. It would be something common sense that's a renewable annual work permit. And I think, I've been on Capitol Hill twice in the last year trying to get this issue through. I've gotten as far as Secretary Rollins at a meeting with her. And you just can't get it over the line because it's a political pawn. And it makes no sense to me. Even when I sat with Mitch McConnell for a long time in March, he said both sides agree. He agreed with me 100% on what we should do. He said neither side wants the other side to get the win. It would be one of the first issues I want to work on. We need to document, not deport. That's a more realistic situation for a labor force that we have to have in this country. Affordability is such a big thing in the last couple of elections. You take out that workforce that we have and see how much things go up because you're not going to be able to afford them. You have to have this labor force. And they are not taking away American jobs because anybody that gets a visa, you have to try to hire an American worker first. And they just don't need these jobs. They don't have to do them. So I think it's just a common sense thing that we could do. We can move quickly on it. And I don't care who gets the credit. We'll let Donald Trump get the credit. Let's just get this thing fixed. My whole motto is going to be, I'm not going up there and fight for anybody. I'm going up there and work for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, politics has become almost like a sporting event now. It's us versus them. Democrats don't want to give Republicans credit. Republicans don't want to give Democrats credit. And nobody seems to be all in for the people. What's best for the people? Is that what really resonates with you right now?
That's what's resonated with me. And one of the reasons I want to go up there. One term is plenty. Let me get up there, try to get a few things done that I think are important. If you want me out after the first term, that's fine. I'm not going to placate to anyone. I'm going to do what's right for the Kentucky people, what's right for America.
How long have you been thinking about this, Dale?
Well, I've been thinking, I've always wanted to run for something for a long time. And you know how politically active I am on things, Zoe. Yeah. And when this seat came up, I called the governor, which is a friend of mine, Andy Brashear, and I told him, what do you think about this? And he hesitated for a second. He got to thinking about it. He said, it might make some sense. It's the kind of politicians we need in Washington. He said, I think that you should take a shot at it. Of course, he won't endorse me during the primary, but he said he's got to stay back during the primary. But that once we talked about it, he said, there's a type of Democrat's going to win. He's got to have deep roots in Kentucky. You got to have a little bit of name recognition, no voting record. He said, you got all three. Go out and resonate with the people, and you can win the primary, and we'll just worry about the general after that.
Dale, in the 2025 elections was the first time that the Democrats had any good news in quite some time. And all the winning issues were about affordability, kitchen table issues, how people are struggling to make ends meet. How do you relate to that? What can you do as a senator to help that situation? And is that part of your background as well? Do you identify with these people?
I identify 100%. I was raised basically a single mother, raising basically three boys basically by herself, paycheck to paycheck. I know the struggles of that. And then I grew up, I've lived in the tack rooms. I've lived in the tack room at Hialeah with two hot walkers working for Woody Stevens. I understand those struggles. And then I've also, built a successful career inside of our signature industry. I know what it takes to build a business. I know the hardships, having the labor force, paying all your withholdings, all the regulations to get involved with. I think that my life experiences would serve me very well on Capitol Hill from the time I was born until today. They were going through my Rolodex looking for people that might want to donate. So it's the most unique Rolodex, my guy said, they've ever seen. So not only do I talk to billionaires every day, but I call my hot walkers and talk to them too. So it covers the entire spectrum.
So what about your current job?
I'm not going anywhere. I train horses for fun. This is my fun. I'm going to figure out a way to keep doing this. At least, through the campaign, it's not a problem. I've told all my guys, nothing starts till after 11 o'clock. If I have a horse in, I'm there. And we got to work around my training schedule. After I'm a senator, I think I can still do it.
Dale, if somebody walked into you now that hadn't seen you in 5 years, they're going to notice a major change, not only in your stature, but physically, mentally. You've been through a lot, and a lot of good things have happened to you over the past couple of years. Do you think this is the right time for you to start now? You're in the best place you could possibly be in physically and mentally?
I'm in the best place I've been in my life. You're right. So you've known me a long time. We've had a lot of fun together. It's, I was excess on everything. I ate too much. I drank too much. Ran too much. But a few years ago, I decided I needed to make major changes or I wasn't going to be here. And the first thing I did was have gastric sleeve surgery. I lost 180 pounds. 2 years ago, I went into rehab, and that's another thing I want to work on Capitol Hill is our whole rehab system. Quit drinking, haven't had a drink in 2 years. Later today, I'm going to be a part of my 12-step program, continuing to do that. I've never been healthier or happier in my life.
So how much has your phone been blowing up for the past week?
No, it went crazy that first day.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it went crazy that first day. And you know what? I can't believe that, because I was a little bit apprehensive about it. Most people thinking that it is a crazy thing. But I can't believe the support and enthusiastic support I've gotten from outside the industry, but really from inside the industry. Some of my peers have really stepped up. I'm going to tell Todd and Tracy Pletcher were the first two to come over and say, what can we do? And they maxed out contributions. And I don't want to go through the whole list of everybody since they were first. I feel good about saying it about them. And that meant a lot to me, a lot more than just trying to win a campaign.
Dale, you have some formidable opponents that you're going to have to beat to make this successful. First of all, in the Democratic primary, Amy McGrath, who I know you have a lot of respect for. She's has run for several offices. I asked you this question when I did the TDN Q&A with her, but with all due respect to her, is it time for a change to try someone new? And then fast forward, if you can get to that, Andy Barr will likely be your opponent in the general election if in fact you win the Democratic. He's also a very strong candidate. I know you also have a lot of respect for him, but could you speak of the two and the difficulty of beating two people that are, have a lot of things going for them in the state of Kentucky?
Well, Amy, I don't know Amy, but I do respect the fact she's put herself out there several times. And you have to respect that she's wanting to do what's right. I don't think she can win a general. And I just think that I would have a better chance at winning the general. I mean, she's already lost two big races I know of. As far as Andy goes, Andy's a friend of mine, but I disagree with him on a lot of issues. I think that, I'm not going to knock Andy in any way. I talked to him last week, by the way. I said, I had to call him about a political issue that I was concerned about through the HBPA, and we were sitting there talking. I said, how often do you think two candidates running against one another have sat down and talked about an issue? And he said, it probably doesn't happen very often. But we'll just meet Andy when we get through the primary and see what happens.
Dale, another issue that you've brought up is HISA, and it's not necessarily whether you're a HISA fan or not a HISA fan, but you have brought up that this is quite an expensive, very expensive proposition that the horse industry was, I don't know, is forced too strong a word, but I'll use it anyways, was forced to accept. And we had a story in the Thoroughbred Daily News last week about Emerald Downs saying we could literally go out of business because we can't afford this. Now, I'm sure the Keenelands in the world can, but the smaller tracks, this is a very big problem. I know you feel that the government needs to step in. The government said you got to do this and then didn't give the horse racing industry a penny. How do you get the government to step up and help racing?
This is a bill written by Andy Barr we were just talking about. And I don't have a problem with government or federal oversight, but I do have a problem with an unfunded mandate. They put out there a $70 million a year program and say you have to pay for it and you have to let them oversee you. Something's wrong with that. It shouldn't have been an unfunded mandate. And everybody says, well, it couldn't pass without it. Well, but no bill is better than a bad bill. And the federal government should step up and help. It's going to bankrupt a lot of small racetracks like Emerald Downs. And they're just as important to the economics of horse racing as Churchill and Keeneland are, or Belmont Park. Probably the three that can afford it, maybe the only ones that can really afford it. We need all these little states' operations up and running. So that would be one thing I wanted to work on. It's a federal law. We have to live with it, but we shouldn't have to pay for it.
All right, one more question for you. What's going to be harder to pull off, beating American Pharaoh or being elected senator from Kentucky?
Everybody keeps saying I'm a long shot. You better tell Steve to bet on me.
All right. Well, Dale, thanks so much for being our Gainesway guest. Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, Dale, how does it feel to be a granddad? Congratulations.
Thank you. It's good stuff. 2 weeks old tomorrow. Yeah, that's pretty good. Everybody told us how great it would be, and it's better than we could have expected.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Dale, this is very exciting news, and everybody in the racing industry will be watching it. I'm glad that your peers have stepped up, and let's hope that the entire Kentucky racing industry hears your message, because you do have absolutely an important message to tell everybody. Thanks so much for being our Gainesway guest of the week, and maybe we'll interview you next from the Capitol Hill. How about that?
That'd be great. Thank you all for having me.
Thanks so much, Dale.
Thank you.
Guest of the week, Dale Romans, was brought to you by Gainesway, home of the stallion Muth. Check out the demand for Muth's first in-foal mares at Keeneland November. In Book 1, he had a $450,000 in-foal mare, and he followed that with in-foal mares that brought $525,000 in Book 2 and $310,000 in Book 3. So Muth is off to a fast start at stud, just like he was on the racetrack. He earned $1.6 million. He won the American Pharaoh as a 2-year-old, then the Arkansas Derby the next spring, which made him the only son of Good Magic to win Grade 1s at 2 and 3, just like his sire. And Muth stands at Gainesway for a fee of just $30,000. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
Say hello to Muth.
The single most important factor in predicting sire success is those who have consistent, high-class form, and it's even enhanced if they have that form as 2-year-olds as well. By our calculations, Muth has the #1 chance of sire success of any of the 30 or so sires that retired to Kentucky in 2025. He has the credentials that we're looking for when we predict sire success.
Since Randy and I are kind of dummies when it comes to this, we're going to rely very heavily on Zoe. But both the Fasig-Tipton November and the Keeneland November sale, plus the Keeneland Horses of Racing Age sale, just concluded. That was the last sale of the year, last major sale of the year, in a year where the thing just went through the roof. I mean, we talk about the economic problems in horse racing, and there are plenty. And it's kind of hard to get a feel for this, because there's a lot of struggles in horse racing, yet this one aspect of the industry is just booming like never before. So Zoe, you already in the Keeneland commercial gave us a lot of statistics, but give us your overview. Tell us what is happening here, and more importantly, why is it happening?
Well, love him or hate him, everybody in the horse industry probably has to thank Mr. Trump for passing the big, beautiful bill that managed to slide in the 100% depreciation for horse ownership, because that came in. When did it come in? In July? Was it July, June, something like that? It was before any major sales went on, because we first started to see the craziness start in the August sale in Saratoga. So it was the main sale, and it carried on to the New York bred sale. And then in September, everybody got their ducks in a row. And that whole sale had already eclipsed last year's record, which was a record after the first 6 days of that sale. The whole sale was up 25%. And then we go into Keeneland November. And obviously you've got the Fazig October sale that went through the roof as well. So now we're in November. So people aren't buying yearlings anymore. A lot of people got shut out in the yearling market. So now everyone's like, oh, maybe I should just buy a weanling. Now, the weanling pinhook market is a very strong market indeed, and it has been for the last few years. But this year, even the pinhookers were shut out. When you've got Donato Lani and Zidane coming in there and plonking down $2.2 million for a gunrunner colt that they figure next year they'll have to pay for. They're like, why not? Let's just start off and buy weanlings now. So it's just basically, I don't know how much longer it can go on, but it's going to keep going on for a little while longer. Basically, the November sale was up 40%. The median was up. The average was up. The November sale at Fazig Tipton was up. Everything has gone through the roof. We'll see how it goes in January. But I know a lot of people for their weanling to pinhook, weanling to yearling market haven't bought enough weanlings. So they'll be looking at the short yearling market at the January sale. So those will be impossible. I even have friends of mine that are looking to buy mares in foal because they couldn't get any weanlings bought. Like, this is how strong the market is now. And Randy, you hit the nail on the head in the middle of the year when we were talking about how strong the market was. And you're like, oh, I hope they don't put up the stud fees too high. And now everyone's jacked up their stud fees just because the market has been so lucrative. Honestly, it's brilliant. Everybody has made money, and the whole industry across the board needs to make money. And hopefully it will carry on. But at the back of everybody's mind has to be this lingering thought, what if it doesn't?
And Zoe, you work these sales. You work with Marette Farrell, very prominent bloodstock agent. How hard is it getting for the people that aren't Amer Zidane and Mike Rapoli to come away from these sales and find horses that they think are reasonably priced?
It's tough. It's tough. Even the smaller guys are paying. If you're looking for a horse that you could pick up for 80,000, usually say a yearling, you're going to pay 150. And now it just seems to be the norm as of now. It'll be, for me, I think the really prominent part will be the 2-year-old sales, because it has to hit a certain level at some point, because everybody is overpaid for the yearlings thus far. It'll be really interesting to see how the 2-year-olds sell, because they're already high enough. I'm not sure how much higher they can go, which is probably why Zidane jumped in and bought that yearling for $2.2 million.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So let's segue now to what's going on at Monmouth Park. We had a story in the Thoroughbred Daily News. We actually had two. I wrote one, and then later T.D. Thornton followed up on it. But not a good look. The Monmouth meet has been over since about September 24th. So we're looking at almost 2 months now. And several people, dozens, matter of fact, maybe even hundreds of owners have not been paid the money due to them in purses. I got a text from a pretty prominent owner. They probably wouldn't want me to use his name, but he told me the other day that it's been 88 days since his horse earned approximately $25,000 in purse money. He still has not got paid. He feels like he's getting the runaround. And he said that the problems filter down. He needs to be, it's a partnership. He needs to pay his partners. He needs to give money to his trainer to be able to pay his bills. And it's definitely Dennis Drazen, the CEO of the Derby development that runs Monmouth Park, has explained that it's a very complicated situation. In New Jersey, where the state has to turn the money back over to Monmouth Park. So that doesn't make it easy. I don't know if that exists at any other track, but nonetheless, guys waiting 3 months for their purse money, again, it's got to be very difficult on the owners. Drazen promises they will get paid, and I'm sure they will, but nobody likes to wait around this much. I have one thing that hadn't really come up, and see what Randy and Zoe have to say about this. Why didn't Monmouth just take out a bank loan to pay this money? I mean, no bank in the world would turn them down. It's obvious that the money's coming in eventually. Probably can pay the loan back at fairly low interest within a couple months. That to me is the solution to this. But Monmouth Park without slot machines, one of the few racetracks left in the country that doesn't have slot money. It's not an easy go for them, and this is not a good story for Monmouth or for horse racing.
No, I mean, Monmouth has been, in part dependent on state subsidies for their purses to be competitive with other tracks in the region. And look, I've got a little sympathy for Monmouth here because, Dennis Drazen and Monmouth Park would love nothing more than to turn around and pay all the owners the day after. I mean, ASAP, get it out there to them. There's obviously a reason why they're not. And to me, it's a perfectly logical explanation that Drazen came up with. They've got to wait for the state to give them the money for the purse subsidies before they can then turn that money over to the owners. So it becomes a political problem, I think, as much as anything else. It's unfortunate that the owners are having to wait like that, but, I don't know what Monmouth can do about it other than what they're doing.
How much exactly do they owe, Bill?
Dennis has been asked that question by both myself and TD Thornton, and he said, I don't have that at the tip of my tongue. I'd have to look into it. So I don't have the faintest idea.
Yeah. Must be a lot for them not to be able to cover a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, well, again, I think Randy makes a good point, and maybe the answer is to come up with a better system here. I don't see why the state needs to hold on to this money. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the horsemen. It belongs to the owners and trainers, and should be funneled to them through Monmouth Park. So let's hope within this is settled soon. And it's still, I love Monmouth Park. It's my home racetrack, and sure. I hate to see them go through a difficult situation like this. And I also hate to see the owners, it is a tough game and these people need to get paid. So let's hope that takes care of itself sooner rather than later. We're going to have a message from the PHBA, and then we can come back. We're going to have some more thoughts, including on what happened last week in the Claiming Crown. Stay with us here on the Writers Room podcast.
The TDN Writers Room, sponsored by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association, the PHBA. Alert, alert. 4 more 2-year-old stakes races for Pennsylvania breds remain on the calendar for 2025. Coming up at Parks on November 26th, the $100,000 Pennsylvania Nursery at 7 furlongs and the $100,000 Shamrock Rose at 6 furlongs for fillies. And also at Park, fast forward now to December 30, the $75,000 Wait for It Stakes and the $75,000 Misbehavior Stakes for fillies, both at 6 furlongs. And those are for 2-year-olds that are PA bred and PA sired. To learn more about the Pennsylvania Bred program, you can go to pabred.com or, as always, call Brian Sanfratello at 610-444-1050.
The Pennsylvania breeding program is the best program in the country. The Stallion Awards, the owner bonuses, also the restricted races and the stakes races for Pennsylvania breds. This year, 8 breeders are on track to earn over $200,000 in breeders awards, and 2 could hit the $1 million mark. We have the best program in the country. Take advantage of the fantastic program that we have.
Learn more at pabred.com.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart. With First TV.
It is time for the First TV Work of the Week. The Work of the Week, of course, brought to you each and every week by First TV. Now, heading into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, Hey Nene was 3 for 3, including wins in the Tyro Stakes at Monmouth and the Grade 3 Juvenile Turf at Del Mar. He was handed his first defeat, however, at the Breeders' Cup after briefly taking the lead and fading to 10th after some bumping in the stretch, causing jockey Joel Rosario to lose his whip. Now, let's take a look at his first work back. This is it. He covered a half mile in the all-weather in 47 flat. Trainer John Sadler, very happy with that work, said he is pointing him towards the Grade 3 Cecil B. DeMille Stakes at Del Mar at the Turf Festival on November the 30th.
Well, the Claiming Crown was run last week at Churchill Downs. And once upon a time, I really didn't like it. I thought, what is the point of giving a lot of money to, not necessarily mediocre horses, but horses that can't cut it at the stakes level. Now, I understand, the common guy, the guy with a $25,000 claimer, they deserve a break too. And also, I'll be honest about this, and it's a little bit controversial. I think some of the trainers that we're a little bit suspicious of in this sport are some of the ones that have been taking advantage of the claiming crown, claiming horses for 25 and 30, and then improving them quite a bit so they can get into the claiming crown. But I had a change of heart when I handicapped the claiming crown this week. These were some of the best betting races I have ever seen. They were impossible. And that's what horse players. So, okay, is it good for the game? We'll see. But is it good for horse players? Very good for horse players. I mean, there was one race with 14 horses, another one with 13. I lost my notes here. I believe there were 7 races with at least 11 horses or more. So, it worked out very well for the bettors. I found that card absolutely impossible. I think I went 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 or whatever it was. But, as a horse player, who doesn't like that? So I have mixed feelings about the claiming crown, guys.
I mean, go ahead, Zoe. What do you think?
No, we need it. I mean, we need to celebrate the blue collar horses. It's just like Dale Romans was talking about with the state of Hissa and Emerald Downs and needing those smaller racetracks to keep the game going. We can't survive on just Kentucky and New York. We need a lot of smaller tracks to keep it going. Every horse can't be a stakes horse. They just can't. And I love the claiming crown for the fact that we can celebrate the blue collar horses. And a lot of great horses come out of those races. Yes, there are some very savvy conditioners that will claim a horse that just fits the credentials to get into the claiming crown. And they'll claim it at the last jump, take it, feed it up and not run it and enter it in the claiming crown. It'll win by 5 and they'll make $100,000. Those are the savvy horsemen. Anybody can do it. We shouldn't penalize those guys for doing it. But I think it's a brilliant way to showcase these horses. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I like the way the claiming crown showcases the horses that, that by far from a numbers perspective are in the majority in thoroughbred racing in this country. And I was just going to mention what Bill said as probably the primary point, and that is how great the races are for gamblers.
Yeah.
For the full fields, competitive racing, you had to wonder, does it pay for itself? And I think that's the reason why the claiming crown has lasted as long as it has. People love to bet on races like that are just so competitive. It's almost like a little mini Breeders' Cup, except for claiming horses. And I also like the way it's moved around from track to track as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things to like about it. And as long as it's, as long as it can be as successful as it's been, let's keep it going.
All
Your
right,
fastest horse of the week might win it next year.
That's it.
Right. Yeah.
There you go.
With that kind of number, he might win the Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll have to see.
Get her number.
Anyway, so again, this is the quiet time of year. Not very much going on this weekend in stakes racing. I know out of Del Mar that they have the Native Diver Stakes. Nevada Beach, who was the Grade 1 winner of the Goodwood, didn't run very well in the Breeders' Cup Classic. For Bob Baffert, would likely be the favorite in there. They also have a stake on Sunday as well, the Red Carpet Stakes. But anybody take a look at the Commonwealth Turf Saturday at Churchill Downs, 300,000 Grade 3. And I like the King's Plate winner, Manzetti, a horse that will be trying turf for the first time. However, the horses that transition from the synthetic at Woodbine usually do very well on the turf. And on top of the fact that this horse has a lot of class and good speed figures, I think the horse is the only speed in the race. But for 300,000, they got a really good field in here. Troubleshooting is going to be very tough. He won a Grade 1 at Kentucky Downs, stretched out for the first time in the Bryan Station by Not This Time, and won that race as well. I imagine he will probably be the favorite by Not This Time. But Manzetti's my pick. How about you guys?
How about Greg Foley, trainer of Troubleshooting, right? He's done such a good job with all these blue-collar horses, throughout his career, based in Kentucky. And here he gets Troubleshooting, wins a $2 million Grade 1 at Kentucky Downs, the Franklin Simpson, and then it comes right back and wins a $600,000 Grade 3 at Keeneland, the Bryan Station, back-to-back. $2.7 million in purses for Troubleshooting. Now, he's the son of Not This Time, Okay. You mentioned him earlier as the hottest stallion in America, formerly trained by Dale Romans. And in the Bryan Station, another horse in that race that finished third, Giacoso, another son of What This Time. And if you go back and you watch the Bryan Station, you can at least make a case that Giacoso might have been the best horse. He didn't break. He dragged Ben Curtis up through the field. He got rank with his mouth open when Curtis tried to take a hold of him on the first turn. And then he still finished well enough to be beaten just a length and 3/4 at the end. He won the Secretariat at Colonial earlier in the summer. So it's a very competitive race. But those two sons of Not This Time are gonna take some money for sure. And the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Last week, West Point continued its hot streak at Aqueduct. Remember, earlier in the month, Cugino won the Grade 2 Man o' War Stakes. And now last week, She's Country took the Key Sense Stakes for New York breds. That was Thursday, followed Saturday by the victory of odds-on favorite Ohana Honor in the Knickerbocker Stakes. For information on how you can become a West Point partner, you can log on to www.westpointtb.com for more information.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Well, guys, that's a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank maybe future Senator Dale Romans. You never know. He's a man who likes to pull off long shot victories, as he did when he beat American Pharaoh. He was our Gainesway Guest of the Week. I want to thank my co-hosts, my partners, Randy Moss and Zoe Kevin, as well as our producers and directors who work so hard behind the scenes to make this podcast look as good as it does. That's Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. And remember, by the way, we have some shows coming up over the holidays where we're going to give everybody a little bit of a break. One of which is the show where we're going to ask you to send in questions, and our team, be it Randy, Zoe, myself, or all three of us, be more than glad to answer. Ask us anything, and we'll tackle those questions.
Anything. No, not anything. No.
Except anything except Zoe's dating life is
you can ask that. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Anyways, send your questions, please, to Sue Finley at thetdn.com. Send them in. That'll be a fun show, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.